This is the operational description for an ignition system. You can see this is in a distributorless ignition system where it is a waste spark. So what we want to do first is identify some components. Down here we have the magnetic triggering device. That magnetic triggering device is the signal for the ignition module up here to know when to fire the spark plugs over here. So we have the ignition module. That's the place where decisions are made as far as when the spark plugs get fired. These are our ignition coils. We've got 1, 2, and 3. There's 3 of them because this is a V6 engine. The way that this, and these are the spark plugs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're gonna number them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this is how it works. These ignition coils are made so that they change a small amount of voltage into a high amount of voltage. Voltage, remember, is pressure. So what we do first is, as soon as the magnetic triggering device comes around so that it shows, let's talk about number 1, shows that number 1 cylinder is at top dead center at the end of the compression stroke, then it sends a signal to the ignition module. The ignition module initiates and sends current through the primary windings, just like this. These are the primary windings. When there's a magnetic field in the primary windings, then a magnetic field is created. When current is flowing through the primary windings, a magnetic field is created that surrounds the secondary windings also. At exactly the right time, the magnetic field turns off. So the ignition module, there would be a wire through here. At exactly the right time, the ignition module turns off the current flowing through the primary windings. When that happens, the magnetic field that is around the primary windings and the secondary windings tries to collapse and tries to induce current into the secondary windings. But it can't. The reason why it can't is because there's a gap in the spark plug at each spark plug. So the pressure needs to build up. Remember, voltage is pressure. And so as the pressure builds up with the voltage, it builds up and builds up. There are way more windings in the secondary windings than the primary windings. That makes the voltage jump up by the number of windings and climbs really high and spikes until there's enough pressure for current to flow through the spark plug, across the gap, through the ground, all the way through the other spark plug, across the gap, back here completing the circuit. So we have a complete circuit. So this is a waste spark system because it's firing in number 2 and number 1 at the same time. Now, number 1 would be at top dead center on the compression stroke, at the end of the compression stroke. Number 2 would be at top dead center at the end of the exhaust stroke and the beginning of the intake stroke. The next cycle of the magnetic triggering device comes around and then it wants to fire number 2, and then it does the same thing. So it sparks across and jumps from one part of the spark plug to the other part of the spark plug, and allowing current to flow and a spark to happen at exactly the right time.